pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. So when the publication has been published, we have approval of the minutes. We have the minutes from the October meeting. Are there any changes, modifications? Hearing none, without objection, the minutes are approved.
In case I forget who I am.
Okay. It's in there somewhere. I was looking.
There you are,
There you
right
are.
there.
There we go.
All right. Before I start the agenda, we have a lot of guests in the room. So I'm just going to ask very quickly if you go around and just introduce who you are and where you come from. We start over here.
Claude Hicks, Executive Director of the Beaufort Housing Trust.
Jennifer Tuckwiller, Director of Operations with the Beaufort Jasper Housing Trust.
Welcome.
Scott Marshall, City Manager for the City of Beaufort.
Van Willis, Town Port Royal.
Mel Krebs, Town Port Royal Planning.
Dave Lavendal, Housing Choice Voucher Administrator, Beaufort Housing Authority.
Julie Davis, Executive Director of Beaufort Housing Authority.
Ethan James, Chairman of the Board of Commissioners for the Beaufort Housing Authority.
Mayor Ryan Krieger, Marine Corps Air Station, Beaufort.
Mike Gagliardi, I'm a planner at Low Country Cog.
All right. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you all for being here. A lot of interest here this morning.
So
Too cold to be outside, so you're welcome in here. And thank you for being here just the Friday before the holiday week coming up. So in advance, wish you all a happy holiday. Any citizen comments at this point? Anybody who would like to make a comment that's not related to the topic on the agenda? Hearing none, we'll move on. Okay, we're here to talk about an update to the views of Beaufort Housing Authority. Ethan James, Chairman of the Board of Commissioners, would like to just kick it off, if you would. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you all for having me. Good morning. My name is Ethan James, and I have the honor of serving as the Chairman of the Beaufort Housing Authority's Board of Commissioners. The Housing Authority is a public housing authority. We are a public body regulated by HUD. As a native of Beaufort and a real estate broker with over a decade of experience, I'm deeply committed to our community. Addition to my role at the Housing Authority, I also serve on several boards, including the Low Country Housing and Redevelopment Corporation, the Beaufort Jasper Housing Trust Fund, and the Beaufort Regional Chamber of Commerce. The current Board of Commissioners for the Beaufort Housing Authority is composed of highly qualified professionals with expertise in commercial real estate, law, healthcare, and government. These appointments by council have brought together a dedicated team united in the Housing Authority's mission to provide safe, quality, and affordable housing in our community. Our recent accomplishments reflect this commitment. We have restructured our nonprofit board affiliation to strengthen our partnerships in upcoming developments. Additionally, we have updated our bylaws, policies, and job descriptions to align with best practices. Collaborating with financial institutions, consultants, and advisors, we have positioned the Housing Authority for long-term success, and we are eager to collaborate with all of you in expanding affordable housing opportunities for the residents of Beaufort County. A key milestone in our success has been the selection of our new Executive Director, Ms. Julie Davis. Ms. Davis brings an extensive experience in commercial and residential real estate development. As Chief Operating Officer for the Humanities Foundation and James Doran Company, she oversaw the development of over 1,200 affordable housing units and the property management of over 2,500 affordable and workforce housing units across the Southeast, including Charleston, South Carolina. She also served as the Development Director of the South Carolina State Housing Finance and Development Authority, where she managed critical state housing tax programs and led the I-526 Low Country Corridor Improvement Project. Her leadership at the Beaufort Housing Authority has already made a significant impact. Under her direction, over 100 of our housing units have been renovated or updated, and occupancy rates now stand at 98%. Following her recent evaluation, the Board of Commissioners unanimously concluded that she has met or exceeded all expectations. The authority is well positioned for continued success under Ms. Davis's leadership, It is my privilege to introduce Ms. Julie Davis, Executive Director of the Beaufort Housing Authority. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Julie.
Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you for having the Beaufort Housing Authority here, and also Ethan, Chair James, thank you for the introduction. If we could go to the agenda, I believe it's the first slide. Okay, so today we're going to talk about our properties, programs at the Beaufort Housing Authority, a progress report, which I have included a full copy of a progress report here at the end of the desk if you'd like a copy afterwards, or it can be emailed. We'll discuss a little bit of the annual Public Housing Authority plan that we established later this year, and then also some upcoming plans with repositioning of our public housing units, and then an RFQ, which is a request for qualifications for a co-developer to reposition Sandalwood Terrace and Marsh Point Apartments in the city of Beaufort by the end of this year. Next slide, please. Chair James, he's introduced himself. He is our board chair at the Beaufort Housing Authority. Our vice chair is Ms. Marilyn Harris. We also have Commissioner Will A. Church, Commissioner Linda Robinson, and Commissioner John Marley. And I believe Ethan just described my background, but here's a little bit of a background if you'd like to go back and reference. But I did spend some time at SC Housing. I oversaw the tax credit programs, which included the housing tax credit, the state tax credit, and the tax exempt bond programs. Was very instrumental with the group in establishing Act 88 of 2023, which was a supplemental financing program to help developers, tax credit developers, with construction costs and escalations. The Act 88 of 2023 stabilized over 7,000 affordable units across South Carolina. I was at the Humanities Foundation and James Doran Company, which is an affordable and workforce housing developer. They're based out of Charleston. And then I was also in commercial real estate in NEI, Columbia. And then prior to that, I was in the legal field for quite some time. Next slide, please. Our mission statement at the Beaufort Housing Authority is to provide quality, affordable housing to low and moderate income families and individuals in a safe community environment, and to assist those that we serve to achieve self-sufficiency. Together at the Beaufort Housing Authority, we have 17 dedicated staff members. Next, please. So our housing portfolio. Right now, we have a total of approximately 300 public housing units. We have our Low Country Housing Redevelopment Corporation, which is our nonprofit affiliate. We have approximately 20 homes with the Low Country Housing Redevelopment Corporation. Beaufort Housing Authority also owns separate scattered homes that we're in the process of titling in Low Country Housing Redevelopment Corporation and stabilizing and building a foundation with our nonprofit, which is going to be our developer arm for the Housing Authority. We also have 13 homes in the Neighborhood Stabilization Program, which is a funding program by SC Housing. Out of the 300 public housing units, approximately 200 of them are with multifamily sites. You may have seen Oak Hill Terrace is approximately 40 units, which is here on Rebo and Port Royal. Yemassee Heights, which is in Yemassee. We have Sandalwood Terrace and Hilton Head, which is approximately 80 units. And then Marsh Point, where we have 30 units, and we also have a community center dedicated from a previous resident commissioner, Miss Dorothy Ann Mullen. Our Housing Choice Voucher Program. We have a total of 647 vouchers. Around 550 of those are just general vouchers. We also have 28 that are dedicated to veterans. We have 55 dedicated to non-elderly and disabled. And then we also have 5 stability vouchers, which we partner with the Continuum of Care. We have a family self-sufficiency program, which is under the Section 8 voucher program. And it's a critical component for our voucher holders to help them build self-sufficiency. It's a grant that we receive from HUD to administer the program. It's offered free of charge for our Section 8 vouchers and our residents. And it helps the individuals with training, case management, coaching, and developing personal goals to help them reach self-sufficiency. I'm just going to touch on a couple of these points just for time. Again, we do have a progress report if you're interested in it, and it will be emailed. But these are some of the milestones that we've made over the past 6 months. Like I said, we have developed and finalized the annual Public Housing Authority plan for 2024, which I'll talk about a little bit in more detail on the next slides. So the way that the Housing Authority receives funding is through the Capital Fund Program at HUD. It's a grant that we apply for every year. And that's the main revenue source for the Housing Authority. When I got there was an internal audit. There was a lot of administration that needed to take place in order to free up some of the funds that we had already applied for, which we completed that audit, and it's released us and approved us to be able to draw down $2.8 million in pre-committed obligations to help make capital improvements to our public housing units, which is similar to what Chair James was saying with already rehabilitating up to 100 units. We have contracted with a consultant who is helping us with the conversion and the repositioning of the public housing portfolio, which we'll talk about repositioning coming up. We do have a financial consultant to help with financial operations and also to establish a new accounting policy. We have completed a compensation salary study. We had to include a 10% premium on the compensation study due to the cost of living and the cost of housing in Beaufort County. We're in the process of completing an MOU with Palmetto Community Action Partnership and Beaufort Jasper EOC for weatherization services at our multifamily sites, which will help the tenants with efficiency, their utility bills, but it'll also help us with some security and some safety. Beaufort Housing Authority does serve on the workforce board for the Low Country Council of Governments. We worked with the Low Country Affordable Housing Forum in the recruitment of the development panel. And we have been advocating and helped with the placement of the public housing set-aside that was added to the 2025 tax credit qualified allocation plan. And what the qualified allocation plan is the governing document for the state of South Carolina for tax credit developers to compete for the tax credits. It was a big addition to the plan. I believe I've heard Claude say before in other meetings, it's very hard to get changes in the qualified allocation plan because you're dealing with IRS. But they have added that set aside, and that's a very big advantage for the Beaufort Housing Authority, because what it does is it sets tax credits aside specifically for public housing authorities and guaranteed that there's going to be a development made with those tax credits. We're also advocating at the state to reestablish public housing authorities as local bond issuers. Prior to going to SC Housing, local housing authorities could act as bond issuers for developers on tax credits, and it closed. After going to SC Housing, we worked through that. As far as the tax credits and the bonds, that's worked out, but this is something that would be very instrumental in public housing authorities to reestablish. So we talked about the annual plan. So we have objectives that we have to include in the annual plan, and we submit this to HUD. And operations and management is part of that. Like I said, initially when I came, I started a pilot program just to assess what the operational needs were for the housing authority, streamline requirements and quality controls. We do have the human resource consultant, which has been very beneficial and helpful with recruiting and training. We are establishing a new performance measurement system for staff, which is an evaluation program. And we are investing in advanced technology and equipment. Eventually, I really would like to get to a paperless and electronic document system. That will take some time. And of course, we would like to increase communications and our marketing and community outreach. So our housing needs and strategy, this is something that we also included in our public housing annual plan. You've heard me talk about RFQ and the repositioning. That was included. We also would like to strengthen our partnerships with public and private entities. The capital fund program that I was talking about, and the administration of that, you have to designate, when you apply for a grant for the capital fund, you designate and classify what you want to use those funds for, and then you have 2 years to obligate that. And then you have another 2 years to spend it. So you think about that whole 4-year period from the time you've obligated and designated what you want to use those funds for, from the time you actually spend it. There's so much changing in the world as far as costs for contractors and the economy. And so really the program is not completely financially feasible for public housing, which we'll get into the repositioning, and that's the reason why there is that repositioning. And that's why you have so much deferred maintenance in public housing in the nation. We'd like to seek more HUD and non-HUD funding sources and increase our supply of assisted housing through partnerships and landlords for our Housing Choice Voucher program. And last but not least, we are in the beginning stages of creating a Resident Initiatives and Community Services Department. That is an essential component to affordable housing. You can build the housing, but you also have to provide the resources and the amenities for residents so it comes together, so it's a better quality of life. So again, we've talked about repositioning. What is repositioning? With the funding program and how from the capital fund, it doesn't make the project financially feasible. And you have just an overload of deferred maintenance. Repositioning is an option for public housing authorities. It maximizes the availability of housing and rental assistance, either through physical units or through the voucher program. It preserves and rehabilitates to replace needed physical units by increasing access to financing for capital needs. Establishes sustainable physical and financial stability for the housing portfolio. And most importantly, it provides residents with the flexibility to move to places of opportunity and improve their quality of life. And most importantly, to help with the platform that best meets the needs of our community here in Beaufort. So the request for qualifications, it's something that we have right now in draft form. And what that will be is a request for a developer, and the Beaufort Housing Authority and the Low Country Housing Redevelopment Corporation will be a co-developer. And it will be published by the end of the year, and it will be to reposition Sandalwood Terrace on Hilton Head and Marsh Point here in the city of Beaufort. And what that means is that we would be participating in the rental assistance demonstration, which is the RAD program. You may have heard of that, and the Section 18 demolition and disposition. And what that means is that we would be developing new multifamily for the tenants to relocate to, and they would be provided a project-based voucher. So with this RFQ, we're gonna need tax credits. Tax credits is the #1 tool for financing affordable and some workforce housing in the nation. There's no way we can do this without it. There is an option to do it without tax credits, but the best way to do it is with the tax credits. So our timing of publishing the RFQ is by the end of this year. And the reason for that is because the 9% tax credit round is in May of next year, and it will give developers opportunity to respond to the proposal. There's also going to be a 4% round in the fall, which would be better for a larger multifamily site like Sandalwood, because you can build up to 200 units. So by doing this, it will help us, we would, the affordability restrictions would remain on the property because we would do a ground lease with the developer. There would be qualifications of the developer. The developer is responsible for the acquisition. They would manage the consultants, the general contractors, their engineers, their architects. We also have requirements as far as their communication with the public, including the public, the local community, and the neighborhoods. We're also requiring a resident relocation services contract, that they contract with a company, or either if they offer that service within their own company to help the tenants, because there is HUD regulations that we will have to follow to ensure that they have those protections. At the Beaufort Housing Authority, we're also establishing a separate position for a resident relocation specialist to help with this process. Again, I've talked about the financing sources. You know, when you get into the tax credit development, and many know this, it's not just one funding source or two funding sources. I call it financing lasagna, because you're having to weed in financing sources throughout the duration of the project. You know, when you make your projections, when you submit your applications, and you're taking your chances on what construction costs are at that time, and by the time you get through the application process and you win, and you get to your construction and syndication closing all the way through construction, those construction costs are going up and down all the way through that. So you're having to weed in different funding sources throughout that project to make it financially feasible so you can place in service. And so I've named here some of the financial options that we've included for the developers to use. How long does this process take for one development? Typically, from start to finish, from the time you put in an application till the time you place in service and you lease up, it's 3 to 5 years. We're in phase one, but we're here, and we are moving forward. So before, and when we talked about this, you know, there's not enough funding through the capital fund program to keep the public housing financially feasible. And that's, again, why you have your deferred maintenance. If you take it through the RAD, the repositioning, it is placed on a more stable platform. And the tenant has a promised voucher to assist them with their rent. You know, with the Public Housing Authority, there's not many options to borrow other financing or money to help with the deferred maintenance and repairs. We rely on that capital fund program, which is good. We've done the audit, and now that money's coming in. The funding fails to keep up with deteriorating living conditions. We've talked about that. Once we do the repositioning, it's a better life for the residents. With public housing, you know, a resident can't just choose to move somewhere under public housing and be guaranteed financial assistance unless they qualify for a voucher. In this case, they are guaranteed. They can have the new home, or either they have other options with vouchers to guarantee that they have that financial assistance where they need to go. And that concludes the presentation. Is there any questions?
Questions, lots of information.
It is a lot of information.
Yes, Mr. Dawson.
Can we get this presentation?
Yes, we'll get copies of the presentation and the handout that you had
And if
passed
there's
on.
any questions, my door's open. Feel free to call me anytime.
Alice?
With the repositioning, so the current residents in those two locations, if I understand correctly, all those buildings in both of those will be torn down.
Right.
And then so for a period of 3 to 5 years, they'll be living, the current residents would live somewhere else and have opportunity to move back, or how would that work?
That's where that relocation services requirement in RFQ would come from. We would have a contracted consultant or company that would help and assist their regulations that we have to follow with HUD under the Uniform Relocation Act.
So they'll be relocated somewhere in, like if they're on Hilton Head. Is
That
the
would be
plan?
the idea. If, for example, on Hilton Head, it would be a great option for a phased development where, you know, it could, LHRC, we could develop some single family homes or some townhomes. for the first phase where individuals could move into the new homes. And then it would be torn down and then it would keep going.
Will you be able to build more density
As far as number of units.
in a repositioning program?
So taking the public housing units out of the program, they would then become tax credit units. There are options that the housing authority can participate. There's a developer agreement where they can provide management services or maintenance services, but there would be that ground lease to help with that affordability. That would take that number of housing units out of the public housing portfolio where we could have an option to build new. HUD is very interested in moving away from the public housing program and moving to that. So we would have to follow HUD requirements and what their expectations are. But yes, it could.
Voucher program, are you responsible for monitoring, is the housing authority responsible for monitoring the units that are in this?
What else?
Make sure they're habitable and kept in repair, so.
We have an inspector, a housing choice voucher inspector. We do have our housing choice voucher administrator here. He may be able to help with some more questions, but we do inspect it. And there's requirements of the landlords in order to participate in the program and receive that funding.
No, okay.
York.
Just, and it just seems that, Ms. Davis, you were sort of a breath of fresh air coming to the Low Country. So I like what you presented this morning. Well, one of the things that crime is a major issue in the housing sector and stuff. And one of the things I noticed in New Orleans, where my wife is from, is that they used to have the housing projects. And after Katrina, they rebuilt, but they actually built those houses separate. And they had like 4 units in a section, and it almost gave ownership to each section. Your plans are to do something similar, so even though it's rental, people can feel that it's part of their community and they take ownership. And when you start dealing with things like crime, et cetera, they have something at stake in that living area and stuff.
And you're talking about the development itself, and are you talking about maybe a larger home that has different sections inside of it with different units as like a supportive housing development?
No,
Or is it neighborhood in general?
they basically had sort of like townhouses connected with like 4 units. So you had 2 in the front, 2 in the back, but it gave that person on one side or the other, in the front or the back, ownership of my section. So you didn't get into graffiti and all that, which is usually a sign of deterioration. But you know, I'm responsible for my unit. And it's only 4, 2 in the front, 2 in the back, and you know, even though it looks like a townhouse, but it gave some kind of to me, it looks better now.
Right.
That's all I can tell you. I can't tell you whether internally whether it is or not, but it just seems that I would have, if I was there, I would have more ownership of my unit.
So another.
And pride, yeah.
Yes. Another advantage with going through the repositioning and using the tax credit program, you know, the public housing that we have now was developed decades ago. And so the financial programs, the requirements under the tax credit programs and some of the other financing options, they have better requirements in order to address that. You know, as far as safety, closer to amenities, you know, we have explored doing more research and what our options are for home ownership. You know, whether it's MOUs with other nonprofits here that may receive funding for supportive housing as well, to have individual townhome developments. So that is something that we are looking into.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Dave.
Kind of building off his point here, one of the other things that we've been trying to address on council is the affordability for first responders. Is there an option for them to be placed in that area too with EMS, fire, and police into those same units?
So under the 9% tax credit program, it goes up to 80, 90 units. I think they changed it this year one way or the other. And let's use Marsh Point as an example. We have 30 units. So the tax credit developer may come in and develop the 80 units. The qualified allocation plan, the governing document for the tax credits, does include now income averaging, which allows from your 30% to your 80%, which gets closer to your workforce AMI. So we do have that option, and it is part of this repositioning, yes.
Because I think that's one thing we're trying to address, not in nursing staff,
Right.
the workforce.
Right. And your area medium incomes here in Beaufort, in our mission statement, we serve low and moderate. Low, is considered $50,000 a year, and that can be considered workforce. So we do have that option, yes.
Thank you.
You can also donate some land, because the city did that and worked with the Low Country Housing and Redevelopment Corporation. And there's 2 units that are on the corner of North and Rebo. They look like single-family homes, but they're quadplexes. So I know the county's got tons of land laying around with nothing on it. But it helps, because the cost of property around here is through the roof, so.
That would be key.
Yeah.
That would be key. That qualified allocation plan, they include that option where that developer can gain additional points and score higher if they leverage and get donated land from a local municipality. So that is definitely an option as well.
Are there affordable housing initiatives underway for locally stationed military?
I do not know the answer to that question.
Mary, you?
Barracks.
Yeah.
They do have
On base housing.
Barracks.
Yeah.
Mostly base housing.
We can look into that for you.
That's that bachelor housing.
Yeah. We have a big veteran
We call them tents.
establishment in Beaufort County.
Yes.
It's a lot of it are a lot of active duty military serving at the bases. I was
Yes, sir.
interested in them having affordable housing capability.
Yes, sir. Some of the funding programs we're talking about, they have different requirements now, and some of those requirements are for veterans. So that's something we can take in consideration in the repositioning as well.
So is Laurel Bay opened up its housing to the public?
I think there's some people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Veterans.
Veterans,
Put it in
yes,
Veterans.
but yes, sorry, but
Okay.
not general public, right?
If
Yeah,
you're a veteran, you can live in there, is
They
that,
have capacity, yes.
okay, is that, is it, what are the rates? I mean, how are the rents comparable to what's in just the open market? Is it cheaper, is it better?
It's cheaper.
Is it?
Yes. Otherwise, it goes with your base allowance
Right.
of
Housing
housing,
allowance.
BAH.
Other questions? Now's your chance. There's a lot of folks here from the housing authorities here. All right, if not, I thank you for being here. It's just very, very interesting. A lot of new information that I've never heard before. And I'm sure you're gonna be making great progress during the year. And there's things that you need from this representation of the northern region. Please come before us and make that plea or that suggestion.
Thank you
So I
very much.
appreciate you and your team for being here this morning. Thank you very much. All right, I'm going to move on to some of our administrative business that we had to just kind of close out the year. This is the last meeting we have of the year. In your packet of agenda, where there are meeting dates for next year, beginning in January. To continue with this, recommendations to continue with perhaps the same format for the meetings, of about an hour. When I spoke to you, some of you individually, this is what you suggested was your preference, and meet on a monthly basis on subjects that you are interested in. So there's an opportunity, there was an agenda of topics that was suggested, pretty much those that we used this year. I'm going to ask at this time if there's any particular topic that you'd like to see on the future agenda?
Now that we've had the housing authority, maybe you could have the Beaufort Jasper Housing Trust.
It is, isn't it? Okay.
Okay, we had them last year,
Oh, you did?
I believe.
Oh, it would have been
It was
Dave.
it was the interim
Okay,
executive director at the time. and
Yeah,
I think Dick Stewart came with them.
yeah.
But yes, by all means, you know, they've made great
'Cause
progress.
we've evolved.
Oh, absolutely. Other topics that you want to know?
Mr. Chairman, Beaufort Jasper Water and Sewer Authority is going through some really challenging time right now, and they're still trying to define themselves and seeing how they're going to come out of some of the dilemma that they're facing. And at some future time, you may want to just invite them to see what strategy they're going to be using as it relates to capital investment.
Yes.
So at some point in time, I can tell you that there are investment has to be done for improvement of current structure, and they also have to expand. And just, I know last time we talked, I think the municipalities were concerned about the expansion. I don't know where they're going to be as far as that.
Okay. Well, we've had Charlie Stone was here at one
Yeah,
point.
I know. I'm just saying not anytime soon, but
Absolutely.
because they gotta go through some planning on their part.
Absolutely.
But as soon as they have gotten that together, that strategic plan, you may want to invite them to see how that's gonna affect all of us.
I do recall, you instigated about a year ago with them coming here with, I think about 2/3 of their board came at the same time.
Yeah.
So that was a very productive discussion, and I know their representation in the room here increased significantly after that, so still a hot topic.
It is, and they have come to grips with some needed investment. And I think I know they're gonna solve it. The question becomes, how do they move forward and how do we expand capital investment and stuff for the area?
Very good, thank you. Other topics?
No, but I'm gonna assume that Ladies Island master plan does include, you know, on our list in Port Royal, the most important intersection in northern Beaufort County is Ladies Island Drive and Rebo Road, especially with the frequency of the Woods Bridge going down, and also for evacuation purposes and all that.
I was gonna say, I'd like to get an update on that
Yeah.
as well. So I think that's been at the staff level for a while now.
Yeah.
Done.
Thank you.
Mike?
And I think the two important things for me would be the public safety, north of the broad discussion with hiring an EMS, as well as transportation. I know there's that study out there, I believe, sponsored by LAT for Palmetto Breeze, but I don't know what the status is on that.
Northern Beaufort
Yeah.
County
Yep.
Transportation.
And that every nonprofit I ever meet with and every, low income situation that we talk about, it always has an element of transportation that's not being met.
Yeah.
So I think that needs to get an update.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I chime in? To David's point, the Northern Beaufort County Transit Study has kicked off. So I think that it would be critical to keep visibility on that study and the Palmetto Breeze organization as well.
Okay.
That ties together.
Thank you, Noah. Mike?
Back to Beaufort Jasper, one of the real challenges that we as a city have is getting capacity commitments out of Beaufort Jasper. And we have thousands of potential housing units that have been sitting there for a long period of time because and we're trying to change the code now so we don't get this happening. But having a commitment to the capacity as it relates to the growth of probably all the communities is really important. And how we get that, I think that's part of that same discussion. But it's critical to us too.
I agree.
All right. Alice?
Just as an update, it's already on here, the recycling rules and efforts. So there's a subcommittee of Keep Beaufort Beautiful, and staff have put together a survey to go out probably in January to businesses. It'll be a separate survey for businesses and a separate survey for residents about what they'd like to see or not see as the next step regarding recycling in plastic bags. And it's really around those kind of questions about, do you want to regulate or keep going like we are? Do you want to regulate more? Like, do you want to do away with plastic straws? That kind of survey.
Okay.
It's very similar to one that was done in Charleston. And I think the lady behind, right here, she had her hand raised.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ashley Goodrich from Beaufort Jasper Water and Sewer. And we most certainly can get something scheduled to meet with all of you all starting in the new year. And I can follow up with the chair after this meeting.
Very good, I'm glad you're here. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's good to see everyone.
But maybe at the January meeting, we can just mention the survey.
Okay.
We'll know, I don't know the kickoff date, but we'll let everybody know.
All right. Anything from your perspective, Mary, at this point?
I think so. I think that the Department of Veterans Affairs, Jason Fowler will be here to talk about that grant, which I think Beaufort Jasper, well, I know, and the county submitted for some infrastructure updates. So that could be a good time to also update on Beaufort Jasper. I don't know how much time you would need, but I know Jason wasn't gonna have, it could be half and half.
We need to get back with staff.
Okay.
We want to, how long to meet, and we want to specifically talk about the military grant for this year's item. It does relate to Beaufort Jasper, and so that would be one thing, and then the capital project approves where Beaufort Jasper is going, that could be something else. I would see those as two separate items.
Okay, well, we'll be in touch with you, figure out the schedule so we can try to keep
I
it.
think I actually talked to Charlie on the second. We have with the Center Landscape, so we'll mention it to him too.
All right.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah,
when
Scott.
there's enough substantial information to report, maybe an update on what's going on with the Navy Hospital.
I was just thinking that.
Yes, yeah, that would be great.
Just have an update from the back or something like that.
Yeah, when it's
There's
time.
that committee, there's that committee, we haven't, I don't know,
Haven't heard from
met
in a while.
Well, I can tell you a little bit about that since I'm on the team. We've been trying to reach out to the undersecretary. She was scheduled to come down here, and that's been changing. And now we're at a point where we're going through the administration change presidents, so things are probably on hold for a while. Yeah.
All right, we'll be in touch with you when
Yes,
it's to a point that we
Yes.
could possibly make a presentation.
yes.
Great, thank you. Others? Okay, if you think of any, we'll be searching for more topics that you'd like to hear about, timely things happening at the last minute that you want to make sure everybody's aware of. So we'll proceed with these recommendations that you've given us. I have one other piece of business to do. As you know, with the dissolution of the Metropolitan Planning Commission, the rotation of the chair between Beaufort County Planning Commission and the Metropolitan Planning Commission changed. And that we decided at a prior meeting to rotate the chair amongst the three new Planning Commission chairpersons from the municipalities and the county. I've spoken with both Wendy and Mike, and at this time would like to recommend for the 2025 that Mike Tony assume chairmanship in the rotation status. I need your endorsement to do that.
Sounds good to me.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So moved.
So moved. Any objections? Any objections?
Railroad.
Time to show up.
That's not what I discussed.
I like
Congratulations, Mike. We're all here for you. We'll be here for you, for sure. All right.
Ed, thank you for your leadership.
Well, thank you.
Your efforts.
Thank you.
You're doing a great job.
I love being here with you all, so
Yeah.
I'll continue to be here. I'm not going anywhere. I don't think. All right, anything else for the good of the cause? not, wishing again all of you a happy Thanksgiving and a joyous holiday season. We won't see you until January, I think, on your calendar, please, mark January 24th, 9 o'clock.
I'd just like to say congratulations to the people on this board that got reelected too.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I was trying to shake their hands as they walked in. Congratulations to you all. It's nice to see friendly faces around here. Continuing.
And I just want to make a comment about your leadership. Thank you for your leadership. When the northern region was basically looking at being defunct, you stepped in and you sort of guided us. And it's really critical that this committee continues to function. So I just want to say thank you for your leadership.
Thank you, Stuart. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, without objection, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.